After winning 2 national titles in high school, Brandon Billings still stood with 0 scholarships, and he had to settle for a preferred walk-on if he wanted to play on any Division I level. Fast forwarding 2 years, Maryland did give him a chance. He took the starting role and carried them to a national championship in his sophomore season. Brandon Billings, after getting 2nd place in the Heisman race behind Sean Dollars, felt like he had much more to prove, and he thought a school in the SEC could give him that chance. It was an easy decision for Brandon Billings. As Hendon Hooker got drafted by the Detroit Lions, he wanted to go team up with elite wide receivers like Cedric Tillman and also Jalen Hyatt, where he would have a better chance at winning the Heisman. All Brandon Billings wanted to do in the offseason was build chemistry with his new wide receivers and also practice in the new playbook. He would have a great offseason and look forward to the first game of the season. In the first week, we'll be taking on a small FCS school. This should be an easy matchup, but we still have to build some chemistry and also work with our new wide receivers. Our first throw is a Tennessee Volunteer. We'd hit Jalen Hyatt where he would take it all the way for 51 yards, and we are already feeling the star power. Trying to capitalize on our first ever offensive drive in Tennessee, we are looking to score after that big Jalen Hyatt play, and we would scramble all the way inside the 5-yard line. The next play, we would take a read option and get stuffed on 3rd and goal, and Brandon Billings is bringing his injury-prone history back, and we are already hurt. Luckily, Joe Milton, the backup quarterback, would build a huge 17-point lead, and we are looking to score once again, but Brandon Billings would throw an interception, and this is looking like a terrible debut, especially against a small school. Trying to snap back in his old self, he would dominate on the next drive, throwing seam after seam after seam, and we are all the way back inside the red zone already, and Brandon Billings would find his first touchdown in his new uniform. As Brandon Billings started to heat up, this game became super easy to him as he'd find a touchdown to Keaton there, then also find McCoy for an easy touchdown and end off the game with a huge bomb to his new wide receiver, Jalen Hyatt, and this game was over. After a rough start, Brandon Billings would end up having himself a great game, catching a dub in his first game as well. He would end the game with 286 yards and 4 total touchdowns. After dominating in our first game, we would find ourselves finally in the top 25 polls, ranked at number 23, but in the Heisman watch, we still found no Brandon Billings. He's going to have to continue to dominate on his new team to make it here. In week number 2, we'd be taking on the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, but we cannot underestimate anybody. Being in a new offense, anybody can beat us. We'd start off way faster in this game, hitting Cedric Tillman over the middle, and he would carry it for much more yards, and then we'd find Cedric Tillman once again to get us inside the red zone, and we'd find our first touchdown of the game early on. Trying to build off that second half performance in week 1, we are going to start off hot in this game, hitting Cedric Tillman and finding Jalen Hyatt on a deep bomb where he would later break a tackle and go in for an easy score. A big reason why Brandon Billings chose Tennessee in the transfer portal was this guy right here, Jalen Hyatt, who is already dominating in the first 2 games. In the second half, we would get the ball first, and we would make a costly mistake trying to pitch it back in the triple option, and they would pick it up and take it most of the way. Luckily, our defense would still hold our opponents to 0 points. As we look to put the dagger in, we're going to find Keaton wide open on a post route, and this looks like to be the end of the game right here. We would coast to win by over 35 points, and Brandon Billings had one of his best college games ever, ending with 433 yards and 5 touchdowns alongside 50 rushing yards. Despite a huge performance, Brandon Billings still was not on the Heisman watch, and he knew he had to perform against better teams to make it here, and he would be able to prove so in the next week against the number 19 ranked Oregon Ducks. We would look to continue to build on our offensive performance we've built throughout the first 2 weeks, and on the next play, we would chuck it up to Cedric Tillman and throw our second interception of the year, being too greedy. After Oregon scores, we'd look to turn it around here in the second drive, but we would take a costly sack and throw a nice ball on 3rd down, but our wide receiver drops it and we have to punt. Luckily, our defense would not allow Oregon to build upon their lead, but we would look to score here now on our 3rd drive of the game as we find Cedric Tillman, then our tight end, and on the next play, we'd find an easy slant for a wide open touchdown to tie this game on up. Our defense would continue to ball, getting another stop. We'd find Jalen Hyatt on a broken play where he would take it for 50+ yards in a huge gain. Oregon's defensive line was screaming at us all game, and Brandon Billings is looking to scramble out and make a play. He barely gets the ball off, and our offense would settle for 3, where we would take the lead once again. Our defense would allow Oregon to score a touchdown to take the lead again, but we are looking to answer right back to that. This might be a high-scoring classic game right here. Brandon Billings later on a 3rd and goal would find a wide-open scrambling lane and score the touchdown to regain the lead. Our defense would give us great field position on a defensive stop, and we are looking to take a 2-possession lead right here, and Brandon Billings gets a little greedy and throws their second interception of the game to the same corner. That costly interception did lead Oregon to take the lead once again, but we're going to find Keaton on back-to-back plays in the same area to get ourselves back in the 5-yard line to hopefully regain this lead. Looking to punch it in, we just hand it off to our running back for an easy power into the end zone here, and we would take the lead once again. This is looking like a high-scoring game. Oregon cannot be stopped on offense, so we have to retaliate right back with 1:30 seconds left. We are starting to heat up, and Brandon Billings cannot miss, even hitting his tight end on a wide open touchdown to take a 3-point lead with only 48 seconds remaining. With only 32 seconds left, Bo Nix would hit a dot on the right side of the field to get Oregon inside of field goal range, and they would tie the game up with only 10 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. We only have one chance to get a big play up with 2 seconds left. This is the last play of the game. We're going to chuck up a Hail Mary, and Jalen Hyatt is going to get it after 2 tip passes, and we are going to win the game on a 75-yard pass on the last play of the game. This was insane. After beating the number 19 ranked Oregon team, Tennessee would move up to number 21, and we'd be taking on another great opponent in the number 24 Florida Gators. Continuing to make our push towards that Heisman and also trying to make the college football playoffs, Brandon Billings would take it into his own hands on the first play of the game, having a huge scramble into enemy territory where he would later find our tight end wide open for the first touchdown of the game. We would remain hot on the second drive, finding wide receivers and tight ends open all game long, and Brandon Billings in the Tennessee offense looks like they will never be stopped, but sadly we will settle for 3 in the second drive on a 4th and 4. After Florida would then tie it up at 10 apiece, we knew we couldn't settle for 3 anymore. We would find Jalen Hyatt on back-to-back plays, getting ourselves inside of Florida territory. This new quarterback to wide receiver connection cannot be stopped as Jalen Hyatt gets inside of the 5-yard line once again, and we'd hand it to our running back for an easy score to take the lead. Our defense would hold Florida to a huge stop and get us great field position on the 50-yard line, and we'd hit our wide receiver running back to us, and on the next play, we'd hit a corner out for our second touchdown of the game, taking a huge 14-point lead. Even in the fourth quarter, Florida tried to crawl their way back, but Tennessee's offense was way too much to handle, and Brandon Billings had himself a player of the game performance with 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. After another great game and still remaining undefeated, Brandon Billings felt like he was snubbed from the Heisman watch, and he still had a chip on his shoulder, and he is looking to have a great game next. In our next game, we'd take on a 1-2 South Alabama team where we would want to put our foot on the pedal and also take our stats to the next level as we score easily on the first drive. This game was over for South Alabama before they knew it, as we took an easy sweep in for a touchdown. We would score on our next drive, finding a wide open Keaton, but then Jalen Hyatt decided to take over as he found himself behind the defense for a wide open 50-yard touchdown, but that's not all. Jalen Hyatt would take the top off the defense once again for another 50-plus yard touchdown, and this was over. He would end up dominating South Alabama in a huge fashion, scoring 50-plus points, and Brandon Billings would find himself back in the Heisman watch at the number 2 spot. In our next game, we would be playing the number 2 ranked Georgia Bulldogs, where we would be able to prop ourselves as one of the best college football teams if we can win this game. With Georgia's stout defense, we had to be perfect on offense, and we'd find Jalen Hyatt wide open on the right side of the line, and we are already in enemy territory, and then we'd find our tight end Fant for an easy touchdown. With Georgia's offense only putting 3 up on the board on their first drive, this is a perfect time to put up another touchdown to take a 2-possession lead, as Brandon Billings would find a wide open tight end for an easy touchdown. They finally would score a touchdown and make it a 10-14 lead, but we would continue to try to build on it as we hit Cedric Tillman wide open. We are now inside the 20-yard line. We were trying to put some points up on the board before halftime, but we would take a costly sack with no timeouts remaining, and the clock would go all the way down to 0, and that is a terrible way to end the half. Still trying to build on that double possession lead, Brandon Billings would find a wide open Jalen Hyatt here in the second half, and this would get us in great field position, and then Brandon Billings would hit another dig route over the middle to McCoy, and our running back would take in an easy touchdown to take a 2-possession lead. Georgia would keep on trying to crawl back as they score another touchdown. Brandon Billings would find Cedric Tillman wide open for a 40-yard gain, and we would top off that drive for a wide open touchdown to McCoy over the middle. After beating a number 2 ranked Georgia team, Tennessee and Brandon Billings felt like they were one of the best teams, if not the best team in college football, as they would continue to build on it for the rest of the season. Our schedule would remain tough as we take on the number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide here in the next game. We need to win this. We need to put up points on every single drive against a great team like Alabama, as we would hit a wide receiver over the middle, get ourselves inside the 25-yard line, and Brandon Billings would be called upon on a triple read option, and we would mess up again just like we did earlier in the season and turn the ball over and give Alabama great field possession and a stop. Luckily, our defense is balling out this season, and we would find Keaton wide open on the left side, and then we'd find our wide open tight end again on the right side of the field, and we are looking to score this first touchdown of the game. On a deep 3rd and goal, we would hit our tight end over the middle, but it wouldn't be enough for a touchdown, and our coach would settle on a field goal to take 3 points. We need everything we can get against this team. It seems like Alabama cannot move the ball against our defense at all, and we're going to throw up a prayer, and our tight end Fant has been carrying us all game as we find ourselves on the goal line once again. Breaking the pocket on a 3rd and goal, we would be able to score the first touchdown of the game, and we would take a 10-point lead on the #1 seed. We knew Alabama was not just going to bail out and not try to win this game as they score an easy touchdown on us. Brandon Billings is going to take the game in his own hands, having one of his largest scrambles in his college career. Despite the huge play, Brandon Billings would find himself getting sacked 2 plays in a row, 2nd down and on also 3rd down, and we stood no chance on this drive. Our defense would get us the ball back in great field possession, and we would look for a bomb over the middle to our wide receiver, and Jordan Battle would pick us off, and man, we cannot get anything going. Alabama would then go on to score, and then on the next drive, we would get hit in the backfield again, and Brandon Billings would barely get the ball off, and on the next very play, Alabama's defensive line is just eating us alive. With the defensive line having such great pressure on us, we throw another interception, and Alabama is getting to Brandon Billings, and he is starting to see ghost out here. After holding Alabama to 3 points, we still had a chance to go up and tie this game or even go for 2 and win it. And our coach was started calling all running plays on the game-winning drive. And on 4th and 4, we have to call a halfback draw, and we do not convert. Our defense bails us out again, and we have another chance to go tie the game up. 0 timeouts left. We're going to find our tight end Fant wide open on back-to-back plays to get us in great field position. Absolutely desperate for a touchdown, we would dump it to our running back, hoping he could make a play for the end zone. But with no timeouts remaining, we could not get back to the line of scrimmage, and Alabama would be our first loss of the season. Despite a huge loss, we would go on a 3-game winning streak, taking out Missouri in our first game. Second game, we would destroy Auburn, and in the 3rd game of the winning streak, we would dominate Vanderbilt as well. After a huge winning streak, we would be currently ranked #3, and Alabama, after a loss, would fall down to 4, and we would match up against each other in the SEC Championship, and the winner would make the college football playoffs. Alabama would receive the ball first and easily score on our defense, and Jalen Hyatt would have to help us a lot this game if we wanted to upset this Alabama team and get our revenge. Looking to top this drive off with a touchdown, Brandon Billings would scramble and hit a crossbody wide receiver for our first touchdown of the game. He wants his revenge badly. With our defense stepping up, we needed to put points up on the board, and we would find our tight end Fant, who dominated Alabama the last time we played them, and we would capitalize that off with an easy slant touchdown to Hyatt. It seems like our whole team is bringing their A game, trying to get the revenge back on Alabama and make the college football playoffs. Our defense is getting stop after stop, and Hyatt is starting to warm up as well. It looks like we're going to be unguardable this game. Trying to punch in another touchdown before half, Brandon Billings would find his wide receiver Keaton wide open, and we would take a 2-possession lead while also receiving the ball at halftime. In the second half, Brandon Billings wanted to put the dagger in this Alabama team as we'd find Keaton wide open, and on the next play, we would find our dominating tight end wide open. He would break a tackle and fall his way into the end zone, and it looks like that will be the game. We would finally overcome Alabama in the season, and we would make our way to the college football championship, and Brandon Billings dominated in the last game of the season, ending with 430 yards and 5 touchdowns. After the big news of winning the SEC championship against Alabama, Brandon Billings would go on to win the Heisman Award, ending the season with 5,000 yards and 56 total touchdowns. Although winning the Heisman was a big accomplishment for Brandon Billings, the season was not over yet as we had to play the Utah Utes inside of the college football championship. We would start the game off fast with Cedric Tillman on a corner route. He would break a tackle and take a huge gain down the sideline for a 49-yard play, and on the next play, we'd find him again wide open, and this seems to be the Cedric Tillman game. With Brandon Billings feeling himself, he throws a dot over the middle to Squirrel White, and this would be the first lead in the college football championship. Knowing Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman would have to have big games for us to compete against this Utah team, we are going to hit Hyatt on back-to-back plays as he takes another huge gain, and we are in enemy territory. We would later reward Jalen Hyatt with another catch over the middle for his first touchdown of the game, and our offense is definitely cooking. With Utah scoring every possession, we had to be perfect, and we were going to take a shot to our wide receiver right here, and we are going to throw our first interception, and that could definitely cost us. As Utah gets their first stop, Tennessee would get their first stop as well, and we would find Squirrel White over the middle again, and then we would scramble out on the next play, throw a very risky ball to our running back, but he would come down for it, and we would be inside of the 5-yard line. Taking a play-action pass out the pocket, Brandon Billings would find his tight end wide open to regain a 7-point lead. With Utah tying the game up at 21 apiece, we would try to score with 30 seconds remaining, and our tight end Fant continues his hot streak at the end of the season. Later in the drive, trying to punch something in before the half ends, we would find Squirrel White wide open, and then before the half ends, we would find Brew McCoy wide open for a touchdown and a 7-point lead. Into the third quarter, Utah's offense is completely unstoppable, and Brandon Billings would have to put the team team on his back to win this game. We need to keep on pushing the pace, and Brandon Billings would find McCoy wide open over the middle, and then on the left side of the field, Jalen Hyatt would be wide open for another easy touchdown. Our defense would finally get the stop we needed so badly, and Brandon Billings would find Jalen Hyatt behind the defense for a huge gain, and all we need is some points on the board to end this one. On a later 3rd and 2, we would be scrambling out trying to make a play, and we would throw it into the wrong player, and it almost gets picked, but we would settle for 3 and take a 10-point lead. This game feels nothing but over. Utah would then go on to score another touchdown. We need to chew the clock while still moving the ball and try to even pick up points to maybe put a dagger in this game as we hit our running back for another easy first down. On the very next play, Brandon Billings would find his wide receiver Keaton wide open, and he would break a tackle to find his way into the end zone and put the dagger into this championship. Brandon Billings would go on to win his 2nd national college football championship, and it looks like he is the best college football quarterback coming into the next NFL draft as he ends the game with 6 touchdowns and wins player of the game. Nothing can stop Brandon Billings. If you've enjoyed Brandon Billings' career throughout this RTG, make sure to stick along. We will be doing a draft into the NFL and recording videos on Madden, so if you guys are enjoying the content, make sure to hit that subscribe.